Chapter 703. There were not many people watching this battle, but they were all famous figures, such as Su Yuan of the Earth Sword Sect, Master Yuan Sword Sect, who was on good terms with the Sky Sword Sect, and the eldest disciple of the Sky Sword Sect, Master Wind Lightning Sword Sect. Although these people were not as famous as the Sky Sword Sect, they were still in the top 10 or 20 among the Sword Dao Grandmasters. Master has been injured. Wind Thunder Sword Master was more than 70 years old, but still seemed to be in the prime of his life. His mouth was wide open, his face full of disbelief. He knew that Yi Chun had defeated his master, Master Sky Sword. According to his master, Yi Chun had only won by relying on the defensive sword art. Without the defensive sword art, the two were equally matched. However, this West Ocean Sword Master seemed to have defeated his master easily. The difference was too great. Dozens of li away, Master Sky Sword stopped retreating, blood flowing out from the corner of his mouth like a snake. What a great move, ocean-shifting sword chi. This is the most majestic and powerful sword move I've ever seen. You've indeed surpassed your master, far surpassing your master. Master Sky Sword's expression was solemn. He had never been suppressed like this in a battle between sword masters. Even Yi Chun was only slightly better than him with the defensive sword art. If they were to fight to the death, even if he was killed, Yi Chun wouldn't feel good. I still have the power to fight. Lu Wujian was slightly surprised. This sword contained the profoundness of wind and water. The water profoundness was already at minor completion, and the wind profoundness was close to minor completion. When combined, it was far beyond mid-grade profound martial arts. Adding the ingenious use of power, no profound martial arts of the same level could block it. Unfortunately, I have developed a new Sky Sword style in the past year. Now, I will use you to test it. Master Sky Sword said lightly. Haha. Hearing this, Lu Wujian laughed. Using me to test your moves? I'm afraid I won't be impressed by your sword moves. But I will give you a chance. Go all out. Lu Wujian quietly waited for Master Sky Sword's strongest move. Master Sky Sword didn't get angry. He raised his arm and placed the long sword in front of his chest, as if performing the most pious sword salute. Sword of Understanding. With a slash of the long sword, the Heavenly Sword Sect unleashed the latest Heavenly Sword style. No one could describe how fast this sword was. This sword seemed to have caused time to stop, and thoughts to stagnate. Lu Wujian, who bore the brunt of this attack, could feel the terror of this sword the most. If Sect Master Sky Sword's previous attack had only piqued his interest, then this Sword of Understanding had already brought him some threat. Ultimate kill, 1,000 miles thread. The Heaven Sword Sect had the Sword of Understanding, but Lu Wujian also had his own trump card. Before this, he hadn't been serious at all. He grasped the sharp long sword in his hand and swung it in the air. A moment later, a white ray of light shot out. At a glance, it was like the line between the sea and the sky, vast, profound, and unreachable. Puff. Master Sky Sword's Sword of Understanding was extremely powerful. His sword chi condensed into a straight line, while Lu Wujian's 1,000 miles thread was similar, condensing into a straight line. However, when the two attacks collided, the one that collapsed was Master Sky Sword's Sword of Understanding. That was because Lu Wujian's attack contained too much power, and there was no end to it at all. No matter how powerful the Sword of Understanding was, how could it block it? What a profound water profound. Master Sky Sword's eyes narrowed. How could he not see that Lu Wujian also contained the two profound essences of wind and water? But it was different from the sea-shifting sword chi. This 1,000 miles thread used the water profound as the main element, displaying the water profound to the fullest. When facing this move, it was like being in the sea. Although one could see the line between the sea and the sky, no matter how fast one was, one would never be able to reach it. Creak. The 1,000 miles thread shattered the Sword of Understanding and slashed at Master Sky Sword's chest at a speed that he couldn't dodge in time. In the next moment, a loud metallic sound resounded. Master Sky Sword's hair was disheveled as he flew back while spurting blood. Unlike the previous time, his injuries were extremely severe. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels were almost displaced, and his blood was flowing in reverse. To be able to force me to use 1,000 miles thread, You should be proud of yourself. Unfortunately, your potential has been exhausted. In the future, the gap between us will only grow bigger and bigger. Sheathing his long sword, Lu Wujian said to the majestic young man and the multicolor-robed woman, "Let's go." Swish, swish, swish. The three disappeared from everyone's sight like flickering lights. "Master, are you all right?" Master Tempest Sword immediately rushed over to support Master Sky Sword. Master Sky Sword's face was ashen as he waved his hand. "I won't die." Master Earth Sword sucked in a deep breath and asked, "Master Sky Sword, in your opinion, what is the extent of this Lu Wujian's strength?" "Him. I reckon he can sweep through all Sea of Soul Masters on True Spirit Continent." Master Sky Sword pondered for a while before speaking. "What? How is that possible?" Master Earth Sword and Master Yuan Sword were astonished. "Isn't there still Yi Chen?" Su Yuan blurted out. Master Sky Sword smiled bitterly. "In the past year, I've created the Sword of Understanding, and my strength has improved by a lot. A year ago, Yi Chen's strength was higher than mine. If he had continued to make rapid progress, he would at most be on par with the current Lu Wujian. However, I can feel that Lu Wujian's true strength is far from this. He hasn't used all his trump cards yet." Master Sky Sword originally believed that Lu Wujian's strength was only at this level. However, as soon as Thousand Miles threat appeared, he immediately sensed that Lu Wujian had an even stronger trump card. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so arrogant. If Yi Chen wanted to defeat him, it would be extremely difficult. Su Yuan and Master Yuan Sword exchanged a glance. "Sigh, I hope my guess is wrong." Master Sky Sword shook his head once more, and left under the support of Master Wind Lightning. "This matter is getting out of hand." Su Yuan's face was filled with worry. As a master of True Spirit Continent, he didn't want to see all the Master Sea of Soul Realm experts of the continent being swept by a youngster of West Ocean. "Perhaps there will be a turn for the better," Master Yuan Sword said in a low voice. In the depths of North Ocean was a group of floating islands. At the center of the group was an inverted cone-shaped floating island. This island was boundless with mountains, basins, forests, volcanoes, rivers, plains, and valleys. At the edge of the floating island, large and small waterfalls cascaded down, pouring down on the floating island below. At the same time, waterfalls also cascaded down from the floating island, flowing down to the floating island below. From afar, this group of floating islands was like a paradise, a wonder of the immortal world. It was truly beautiful, magnificent, and exquisite at the same time. On the inverted cone-shaped floating island, there was a huge palace that occupied several thousand hectares. Inside the palace, a middle-aged man and a youngster were standing one after another. In front of them was a model of a continent. Based on its shape and geographical distribution, one could tell at a glance that it was a model of True Spirit Continent. Above the model were numerous sparkling and translucent lines intertwining, covering the entire sky above the model. At a glance, it was simply impossible to count. There were at least millions of them intertwining together. The middle-aged man waved his finger, and a light dot landed on the thin line at the center of the continent. That was the Central Region, Sky Marshal Region. "Tian go to Sky Marshal Region," the youngster said respectfully. "Master, why do you want me to go to Sky Marshal Region?" "If my guess is correct, the Forbidden Region carrying 4 Extreme Emperors' graveyard will move to Sky Marshal Region within a year. You possess the first style of Void Shattering Finger and Sky Scorpio King's key, which means that this graveyard is fated with you. However, fate is fleeting, and you have to fight for it yourself. For Extreme Emperor's graveyard will move to Sky Marshal Region." The youngster sucked in a deep breath and bowed respectfully. "Yes, Master. Remember, Void Shattering Finger has 4 styles, and there are also 4 keys to open the graveyard. The other 3 keys should be in the hands of others. If you can snatch them, do it. If you can't, then cooperate with them. I have a premonition that with the 4 Void Shattering Finger styles and the 4 keys, you should be able to enter 4 Extreme Emperor's graveyard. Rest assured, Master, with my strength, unless it's a half-step king or a life and death king, nobody can be my opponent." A cold light flickered in the youngster's eyes. "Your master knows your strength the best. However, Sky Martial region is a holy land for geniuses. Perhaps there aren't many who can contend against you, but there are certainly some who you can't kill. I can't kill them, the youngster declined to comment. All right, you can go now. The middle-aged man waved his hand. Farewell, master. The youngster turned around and left the palace, soaring into the sky and flying in the direction of True Spirit Continent, soon disappearing without a trace. Waiting for the youngster to leave, the middle-aged man clasped his hands behind his back. For Extreme Emperor's graveyard has appeared. It's time for me to take a look. I wonder what level the strength of those fellows from True Spirit Continent has reached. I hope they won't disappoint me. Dragon King should come out of seclusion soon. With a wave of his hand, the model of True Spirit Continent disappeared into the void, and the middle-aged man's figure flickered, disappearing from the palace. Emperor Canyon, Yi Chun and the rest had long since left. On Emperor Scar Steel, the traces left behind by For Extreme Emperor flickered faintly like an illusion. In the following month, Yi Chun and the group traveled to a lot of places. There were natural wonders and strange terrains caused by ancient king-level battles. There were countless of them. A month passed, and everyone went their separate ways. Yi Chun and Morong Qingqing didn't return to South Rudra region. It was already August, only a month away from 18th of September. If they went back, they wouldn't have enough time. Therefore, they might as well stay in Sky Martial region. During this period of time, the news of West Ocean Sword Master Lu Wujian defeating Master Sky Sword spread like wildfire. Soon after, the incident at White Cloud Restaurant spread as well. Combining the two matters, it immediately created a sensation. Many people knew that a sword master named Lu Wujian had come to West Ocean. Apart from defeating Master Sky Sword in his master's stead, he was also going to meet the geniuses of True Spirit Continent on 18th of September. West Ocean Sword Master, Continent Sword Master. This was just a gimmick. Adding Lu Wujian's arrogant words, Nine Dragon Lake once again welcomed a golden age after 2 years. At that time, the number of people heading to Nine Dragon Lake would probably surpass that of the past, because this time was different from the last. This time represented the dignity of True Spirit Continent. If all of them were defeated by Lu Wujian, it would be tantamount to admitting that True Spirit Continent was inferior to West Ocean. Chapter 704. As the days passed, the 18th of September got closer and closer. As time went on, a large number of Sea of Soul Realm experts arrived from the nearby towns. Even Sea of Soul Realm masters could be seen frequently, which was something unimaginable in the past. Inside the restaurants and tea houses, all sorts of discussions could be heard. West Ocean Sword Master Lu Wujian has come with great momentum. Even Master Sky Sword lost to him. Right now, I'm a bit worried that he might really sweep through all the geniuses in the Sky Martial region. That shouldn't be possible, right? Regardless, our True Spirit Continent is the place with the most geniuses. It's not something the four oceans can compare to. You can't say that. Who says a remote place can't give birth to an invincible genius? Moreover, West Ocean has always been the most powerful among the four oceans. Only North Ocean can compete with him. Sigh. It seems like this era is even more frightening than we imagined. Although West Ocean and North Ocean had many geniuses in the past, it was impossible for a super genius like Lu Wujian to appear. Do you think the number of life and death kings in the next 100 years will be much higher than before? It's quite possible. In the past 100 years, there would be around 10 life and death kings, and not more than 20. This time, I'm afraid it will be no less than 30, perhaps even more. In the ancient era, the number of life and death kings was the highest. Although they were not everywhere, it was still a spectacular sight. In the medieval era, the number of life and death kings suddenly decreased by 1-fold. In the recent ancient era, it had decreased by 2 folds. In the modern era, it had decreased by several folds. If more than 30 life and death kings could be born in 100 years, it would be the level of the late ancient era. Duga family. Dugaju walked out of the evil demon cave with a calm expression. He did not look as miserable and frightening as before, as if the evil demon cave no longer had any effect on him. Walking to a huge wooden board not far away, Dugaju stretched out his hand, and took down the white paper nailed to it. It turned out that Dugaju often went into seclusion. Fearing that he didn't know much about the outside world, he had ordered people to write down some of the important matters of the Sky Martial region, and even the whole continent on the paper. This way, even if he didn't leave Dugaju, he would still know everything about the world. West Ocean Sword Master, Lu Wujian. When Dugaju read about Lu Wujian, his eyes gradually narrowed. Interesting. You actually defeated Master Sky Sword, and even met with Yi Chen. Since you're able to stand on equal footing with Yi Chen, you're definitely not weak. Fine, let me see how many tricks you have up your sleeves, and whether you're qualified to be a formidable opponent of my Dugaju. The paper was crumpled into a ball, and turned into ashes. The evil demon cave does not have any effect on me anymore, unless I can open the seal and enter the next level. But, with the weakening of the seal, that evil demon would definitely take the chance to attack the seal and escape. So, it would not be a good idea. No rush, I will think about it after I reach Late Sea of Soul's realm. Just like Yi Chen, Dugaju was also stuck at the peak of Mid-Sea of Soul realm. Entering Late Sea of Soul realm was inevitable, but it would take some time. Taking a step forward, Dugaju walked out of the demonic cave. Unknowingly, it was already September, and the date was fixed on September 16th. Near the Nine Dragon Mountain, a large number of Sea of Souls realm warriors were rushing toward the Nine Dragon Mountain in an endless stream. September 17th, those who should come had all come. In the center of the Nine Dragon Mountain, around the Nine Dragon Lake, there was an ocean of people, their voices reaching the sky. Shoo 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 shoo. On this day, the number of geniuses who had come was also the highest. Bai Wuxia, Yan Fengfeng Lu Xiaoyu, Situ Hao Bai Minghui, Chu Zhongtian. Besides a few, all the other top geniuses, whose names shook the world, had arrived, wanting to see what kind of level the so-called West Ocean Sword Master had reached. Beside Lu Xiaoyu, a lot of people had gathered, including Bai Wuxia. Brother Lu, you fought with the West Ocean Sword Master half a year ago. How is his strength? Bai Wuxia asked. Lu Xiaoyu was silent for a while, then said slowly, very powerful. Hearing him, Bai Wuxia's expression froze. Lu Xiaoyu's words were very vague for others. Very powerful, everyone knew, but they did not know exactly how powerful, which was tantamount to not answering. However, Bai Wuxia was very clear about Lu Xiaoyu's character. If the West Ocean Sword Master was only a bit more powerful than him, he would not say the word very powerful. But, to make him say very powerful, this West Ocean Sword Master was definitely an extremely dangerous person. But it's not like I did not make any progress in this half a year. A cold light flashed through Lu Xiaoyu's eyes. Bai Wuxia nodded, not saying anything. Hehe, my Imperial Sword technique has been cultivated to the 3rd level. Although I can only launch 3 swords at the same time, it is still twice as powerful as the 2nd level of the Imperial Sword technique. The telepathic sword that I got from Yi Chen helped me comprehend the profound meaning of speed, and the speed of my sword has been greatly improved. Lu Wujian, the West Ocean Sword Master, let me see how powerful you are. Situ Hao stood alone on the peak with a smile on his face. He knew he was not a match for Lu Wujian, but for him, as long as he could fight with people at this level for a while, it would be something to be proud of, which meant he had the potential to catch up. Thinking for a while, Situ Hao thought to himself, Yi Chen got my Imperial Sword technique, but I don't know which level he has cultivated it to. I guess he is at the 2nd level, but not beyond the peak of the 2nd level. At that time, I might have to compete with him in the Imperial Sword technique to see who is better. The night passed. The 18th of September arrived. Haha. The sky had just brightened when 3 figures came through the air, and the one in the lead was none other than Lu Wujian, the West Ocean Sword Master. Lu Wujian, the West Ocean Sword Master. Lu Wujian is here. The people near the Nine Dragon Lake were all startled. They looked at the 3 figures, and then focused on the one in the lead. Lu Wujian's body was not strong, and he was a little thin. His palms were slender like bamboo, and they seemed to have some kind of magic power. On his face, which was not very handsome, he had a pair of narrow and sharp eyes, and a tall nose. At first glance, one would be attracted to him. Looking around, Lu Wujian did not find Yi Chen's figure, and the corner of his mouth rose. Humph, the continent's sword master? I'm afraid he is too scared to come. The woman in colorful clothes sneered. No hurry, there are a lot of people who interest me here. I can play for a long time. Lu Wujian said lightly. Indeed, there are a lot of powerful warriors. The young man's expressionless eyes gradually turned sharp. If he was a rock before, then he was a piece of steel now. The aura he was giving off was not any weaker than Lu Wujian's. Lu Wujian was the red flower, and he was the most obvious green leaf. You are Lu Wujian. The first one to stand out was Bai Minghui. All martial geniuses did not want to lose. Even though he knew that he was no match for Yi Chen, he still wanted to challenge him. You do not interest me at all. Lu Wujian glanced at Bai Minghui, and then shook his head. You will know soon whether I am interested or not. Take this spear attack of mine first. Bai Minghui took out the long spear on his back and waved it out. The invisible spear light ignored most of the distance, and it was indeed Sky Bank. Nailin, you go meet him, Lu Wujian said to the woman in colorful clothes. All right. The woman in colorful clothes jumped up as a long red whip appeared in her hand. She lashed out at the invisible spear light. That unbelievably fast spear light seemed to have sunk into a swamp all of a sudden. Its speed was drastically reduced before it was shattered into pieces by the long whip. So powerful. This Bai Minghui is ranked in the top 20 in the master-level warrior ranking. But his killing attack was blocked by a girl right next to Lu Wujian. Don't worry, Bai Minghui still has a second movement. Everyone knew quite a bit about Bai Minghui's killing attack. Plus, it had been more than a year, and it would be impossible for him to not improve at all. Perhaps he had already figured out the third movement. Second movement. Indeed, Bai Minghui's expression darkened slightly when he saw that his first attack had been broken. He immediately performed his second attack. In the next second, 5 beams of silver light attacked toward the woman from different angles. Their speed was even faster than the first attack, and they were even stealthier. Bloodthirst kill. The woman in colorful clothes attacked almost at the same time as Bai Minghui, performing the same attack that she had used on Morong Qingqing that day. It was performed with a long whip weapon, so its power was even more powerful. The woman in colorful clothes shook her long whip, and a 3-headed red snake was formed immediately. Its 3 heads clashed onto the 5 silver light beams. Pooh, pooh, pooh. The snake heads were punctured, but the silver light disappeared as well. If this is all you have, then you will lose for sure. The woman in colorful clothes had suffered a loss at the hands of Morong Qingqing, but it did not mean that she was not as powerful as Morong Qingqing. After all, that day at the restaurant, she had been a bit careless and did not use her full power. Plus, Morong Qingqing was already very powerful, and she was at least ranked in the top 10 of the master-level warrior ranking. What a joke! I have not even used my true power yet. Bai Minghui's expression was serious. At first, he had looked down on the woman in colorful clothes, thinking that Lu Wujian was just brushing him off. But now he did not think so anymore. The woman in colorful clothes was much more powerful than he had imagined. If he did not use his full power, then he might really lose. Third movement, Sky Bank separation. His body split into 2, as the 2 Bai Minghui performed the Sky Bank movement at the same time. Although it was only one movement, the aura was completely opposite. It was as if one was in the light while the other was in the dark. The 2 auras merged together, and the Sky Bank movement immediately changed. The sharp spear light expanded infinitely, expanding by hundreds, or even thousands of times in an instant. It shot out, and the clouds in the sky were instantly separated. This Bai Minghui has actually managed to learn the 3 movements of the Sky Bank. Once this movement is completed, his ranking will probably go up a couple of places. Maybe he can even get into the top 10. Everyone was secretly shocked. The woman in colorful clothes' pupil shrank. This spear attack was really out of her expectation. It actually gave her the illusion that she could not block it. Dragon Slash. Under the huge pressure, the woman in colorful clothes finally used her strongest trump card. Red Zhen Yuan poured into the long whip, which was like a huge chain. It coiled out and wrapped around the fierce spear light. Creak, creak. Sparks flew everywhere. The long whip and the spear light wrestled with each other, neither giving in. But in the end, the spear light was like a trapped flood dragon, and it was instantly torn apart. Lose! With no time to lose, the woman in colorful clothes swung her long whip, and the whip light turned into a scarlet python that struck Bai Minghui's protective Zhen Yuan. Puff! Bai Minghui puked out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. Bai Minghui lost. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. If it was Lu Wujian who had defeated Bai Minghui, it would not be a big deal. After all, Lu Wujian's strength was undeniable. However, this woman in colorful clothes was only a follower of Lu Wujian, and yet she also had such a frightening strength that even Bai Minghui could not block it. How could they not be shocked? Chapter 705. It is indeed the style of the West Ocean. Bai Wuxia had also been to the West Ocean before, and the warriors there valued speed the most. If they could finish it with one blade attack, they would not bother with a second blade attack. Although Bai Minghui's power was only around 10th, his spear speed could be at least in the top 5. However, that lady's attacking speed was not any slower than his at all. It's too powerful. That long whip appears and disappears like a ghost. It's as easy as using an arm. If this girl is already this powerful, I wonder how powerful Lu Wujian is. It seems like Lu Wujian does not plan to attack right away. If I want to challenge him, I will have to beat this girl and that aggressive young man first. Even Bai Minghui could not do it. If I want to beat this girl, I will have to be ranked higher than him. Everyone discussed among themselves, looking a bit worried. Chu Zhongtian will fight you. On a flat ground right next to the Nine-Dragon Lake, Chu Zhongtian jumped into the air and landed right in front of the lady. That aggressive aura exploded out of his body, bringing up a tornado. Chu Zhongtian has come out, but his rank is lower than Bai Minghui's. Bai Minghui is 16th, and he is 18th. Can he handle this girl? It seems like you guys still do not know much about Chu Zhongtian. Although his power might not be as powerful as Bai Minghui, he has the evil spirit body, which gives him an amazing defense. If it comes to a battle of life and death, he will definitely be able to kill Bai Minghui, and even those ranked higher than him. The ranking was based on one's power, which meant that it would be ranked according to one's power. However, sometimes power did not mean everything. For example, in some situations, people with powerful survival skills would be able to kill people with higher power. Without a doubt, Chu Zhongtian's defense was definitely one of the best in the ranking, so it would not be wrong to rank him first. You will not be my opponent. The lady in colorful clothes had a very sharp eye. Judging from the aura on Chu Zhongtian's body, she could tell that he would not be more powerful than Bai Minghui. Since even Bai Minghui had lost to her, it would be pointless for him to come out and waste her time. Whether or not I will be your opponent is not up to you to decide. Chu Zhongtian looked cold as his aura increased rapidly. That dark red light flickered on the surface of his body, like a layer of shiny film. Lu Wujian was slightly surprised and said to the rainbow-clothed lady, "Nailin, be careful. This person possesses the astral body and has a very high defense." Astral body? The woman's expression changed and she said coldly, "So that's how it is. Make your move. Even if you have the evil spirit body, I will still defeat you. I hope you can still say that later." Back then, Chu Zhongtian's weapon was a dark red rapier. But now, his weapon had long since been replaced with a semi-extreme grade weapon. It was red with a hint of silver, and it was extremely heavy. This was a reward for Chu Zhongtian, and the sect had spent a huge price to buy it. With the mace in hand, Chu Zhongtian poured his potent astral essence into it. Immediately, tiny specks of red dust began to float around the mace. These specks of dust shimmered with an illusory light, as if they were compressed diamonds, and contained a terrifying energy. Mortal fragmented mace. Chu Zhongtian's figure flashed as he transformed into a dark red ray of light. He instantly arrived a few dozen steps away from the woman in colorful clothes, and smashed his mace down. Bloodthirsty triple kill. The multicolor-robed woman did not retreat or evade. With a flick of her whip, a three-headed crimson python charged out. The python head in the middle welcomed the attack, while the two python heads flanked Chu Zhongtian's body from the left and right. She seemed to have the intention of killing Chu Zhongtian with a single move. Break! Chu Zhongtian didn't pay any attention to the incoming python head and smashed the middle python head. Pung! The python head exploded and dissipated into nothingness. Puff puff! Soon after, the other two python heads also attacked Chu Zhongtian's protective astral yuan. However, Chu Zhongtian's protective astral yuan was too powerful. It only caved in a large area like a broken lotus root. Ever since his cultivation base had reached mid-sea of Soul Realm, Chu Zhongtian's protective astral yuan hadn't been broken in a long time. On the master's ranking, there were only a few who could do so. What? His defense is this powerful? The complexion of the multicolor-robed woman greatly changed. She had underestimated the intensity of Chu Zhongtian's astral yuan. Tyrant Dragon Destruction Mace. Mid-rank Profound Sense Martial Arts took a little longer to charge up, so Chu Zhongtian seized this rare opportunity to use a low-rank Profound Sense Martial Art, Tyrant Dragon Destruction Truncheon. A red light flashed, and a dark red demonic dragon chi attacked the multicolor-robed woman. Huff! The multicolor-robed woman retreated a dozen steps, but she wasn't injured. A low-grade Profound Sense martial skill couldn't threaten her. However, her blood and chi were shaken to the point of being unstable. Fragmented Mace. After the Tyrant Dragon Destruction Mace was a low-grade Profound Sense martial skill, Fragmented Mace. The mortal Fragmented Mace he had used before was a mid-grade Profound Sense martial skill. However, the multicolor-robed woman was from the West Ocean, and her attack speed was too fast. If he wanted to seize the upper hand, he could only use low-grade Profound Sense martial skills that were faster to suppress her and slowly grind her to death. Rumble! The multicolor-robed woman forcefully took on this attack, and was forced to take another dozen steps back. Chu Zhongtian continued to press forward, using both the Fragmented Mace and the Tyrant Dragon Destruction Mace in turns without any pause in between. His whole body was like a dark red tornado as he kept attacking his opponent. Everyone watching the battle was dumbfounded. They hadn't expected that the multicolor-robed woman, who had defeated Bai Minghui, would be suppressed by Chu Zhongtian, unable to fight back. This guy's defense is so freakishly powerful. Li Xiaoyan and Jing Aoshuan had arrived as well. Li Xiaoyan smiled bitterly. You have low-grade Profound Sense martial skills, but so do I. It was the first time that the multicolor-robed woman was forced to use low-grade Profound Sense martial skills. She felt a bit sullen inside. Wind Flame Whip. Beams of fiery red whip shadows shot out as the multicolor-robed woman finally blocked out Chu Zhongtian's attack and slowly turned the situation around. Volcano Mace. But at this moment, Chu Zhongtian suddenly jumped back several hundred meters. Gripping the sword breaker with both hands, he smashed it down. This sword breaker was like the earth splitting apart and a volcano erupting. All of its power was unleashed in an instant, its power incomparably fierce. Mid-grade Fire and Earth Profound Sense martial skill. Volcano Mace. Damn! The multicolor-robed woman placed both of her hands in front of her and formed a red crystal shield. Crack! The red crystal shield had just formed when it was cracked by the volcanic mace power. Crackling sparks flew everywhere, and lava splashed everywhere. Don't be too proud. Watch my fire cloud art. The multicolor-robed woman removed the red crystal shield as her body floated away like she was weightless. She was like a fire cloud that moved at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, she had arrived on the right side of Chu Zhongtian. In the next second, a whip shadow coiled down and bound Chu Zhongtian's body. Crack! Crack! A couple of marks appeared on his protective evil yuan, and the edges started to crack. Bang! Finally, Chu Zhongtian's protective evil yuan was shattered. The whip shadow coiled around Chu Zhongtian's body and continued to tighten. Break! Chu Zhongtian's muscles swelled as the light on his body flickered countless times. With a snapping sound, the whip shadow broke into pieces and disappeared. How can an evil spirit body be so strong? The multicolor-robed woman was in despair. She had never seen an evil spirit body, and thought that it was only twice as strong as an ordinary spirit body. However, Chu Zhongtian's appearance made her realize that the evil spirit body's strength was beyond her imagination. It was probably the strongest physique so far. Nalan, you can't beat him. Let me do it. The majestic youth flashed and arrived beside the multicolor-robed woman. Brother Gu. The multicolor-robed woman was a little unwilling. Lu Wujian said, Nalan, come back. Yes. The multicolor-robed woman had to listen to Lu Wujian. I am Gu Lai, also known as Tyrant Saber Master. I will deal with you in 3 sabers. The majestic youth said in an extremely calm tone. Arrogant words. Chu Zhongtian loosened his muscles and looked straight at Gu Lai. First saber. Gu Lai simply drew his saber and slashed. Crack. Chu Zhongtian didn't have time to dodge at all. A huge crack appeared on his protective evil yuan, and the saber light hit his body, causing traces of blood to appear. Too fast. I can't even see how he attacked. Everyone around the 9-Dragon Lake was shocked. Second saber. Gu Lai indifferently waved the second saber, and layers of saber curtains appeared. His body shook violently, and Chu Zhongtian's protective Zhen Yuan collapsed instantly. His thin inner armor caved in, and his bones started to hurt. Third saber. This time, Gu Lai's right arm swelled as he waved his saber, drawing a full moon mark. Chu Zhongtian was right on the edge of the full moon. Dang! Chu Zhongtian had finally blocked Gu Lai's attack. But before he could let out a sigh of relief, a majestic force was transmitted into his body through the puppet. He couldn't help but spit out a small mouthful of dark red blood, and his entire body was sent flying. 3 saber strikes, and Chu Zhongtian was defeated. Could this guy also be a first-rate super expert in Dugaju? Too frightening. Chu Zhongtian's defense is nothing to him, and his saber speed is frighteningly fast. My premonition is getting worse and worse. The enemy this time is too powerful, and it's not just one person. Amidst the discussion, Lu Wujian smiled lightly and mumbled to himself, Gu Lai's tyrant blade. Even I have to be careful. If I want to win, I will have to exchange more than 300 attacks. How could a mid-Sea of Souls realm warrior stop him, even if he has the evil spirit body? Including by Wuxia, a lot of martial geniuses' expressions changed. Tyrant Blade Master Gu Lai was definitely a very dangerous warrior. In the ranking, perhaps only Dugaju could compete with him. As for who would win, no one knew, because they didn't know how powerful Dugaju was right now. Unfortunately, Dugaju had not arrived yet, and the number of people who could compete with Gu Lai could be counted on one's fingers. Moreover, none of them had a high chance of winning, since the highest-ranked warrior here was by Wuxia, who was ranked 4th, and Yin Fengfeng, who was ranked 5th. The rest of them would not be Gu Lai's opponent at all. However, Dantai Mingyue, who was ranked 3rd, had arrived, so she might have a chance of winning. But she was even more mysterious, and would not attack easily. Hundreds of li away, 2 human figures arrived side by side. What a brutal blade art! No wonder Chu Zhongtian is not his opponent. Yi Chen's soul power had already seen what was happening above the 9-Dragon Lake, and he was a bit surprised. Chapter 706. Chu Zhongtian had the evil spirit body. Every time he reached a higher realm, his power would increase by a whole new level. Right now, although Chu Zhongtian was only at mid-Sea of Souls realm, and had not even reached peak level yet, his evil yuan was still not something normal people could imagine. Even Murong Qingqing's demon power could not compare to Murong Qingqing's demon power. Of course, she had the perfect demi-demon bloodline, which combined with her demon power, made her look like a human demon's. Adding on the fact that her cultivation had already reached late Sea of Souls realm, and she had gone through the one with the world state, her profound sense martial arts had improved by leaps and bounds, which was why her battling power was more powerful than Chu Zhongtian's. If Chu Zhongtian reached late Sea of Souls realm, he would definitely be in the top 3 of the master-level warrior ranking. He would be able to compete with Dugaju and Dantai Mingyue. As for who would be more powerful, it would be hard to say. Besides his evil spirit body and evil yuan, Chu Zhongtian was still lacking in other areas. The Great Era is coming. After 10 years, there should be a lot of people here who will reach the life and death realm. Yi Chen let out a breath as a strange light flashed through his eyes. Xianhou had reached the life and death realm at the age of 35, which was a record that was very rare even in the Great Era. There might not be many people who could surpass her. Even Yi Chen himself did not have the confidence to reach the life and death realm before the age of 35, since there was still half-step king warrior above peak level late sea of soul's realm. Just the gap between half-step king warrior and peak level late sea of soul's realm had already trapped a lot of people, not to mention the life and death realm. In other words, every step after peak level late sea of soul's realm was like an abyss. No matter how talented one was, there might still be a chance that one step would fail. However, everyone present here was a rare martial genius. After 10 years, there should be some who would be able to reach the life and death realm. For example, Bai Wuxia and the rest of the young generation were already around 35 years old, or even older. After 10 years, it would not be impossible for them to reach the life and death realm. Moreover, after 10 years, Yi Chen himself would be 37 years old. The two were traveling at an extremely fast speed, covering hundreds of miles in just a couple of blinks. Yi Chen is here. Near Jiulong Lake, thousands of pairs of eyes looked at Yi Chen and Morong Qingqing as they flew over. In an instant, Yi Chen became the center of attention. Some of them heaved a sigh of relief, and the worry on their faces faded away. Previously, Yi Chen, Dugaju, and Dantai Minghua were not here. Although there were many of them, there were only a few of them who were powerful, so it was inevitable that they lacked confidence. Now that Yi Chen was here, all of them seemed to have found their backbone, and were no longer oppressed by Lu Wujian and Gu Lai's imposing manner. They secretly heaved a sigh of relief. With Yi Chen here, our true spirit continent's chance of victory has increased by at least 30%. We already have a fighting chance. It's a pity that Dugaju and Dantai Minghua aren't here. Otherwise, our chances of winning would be higher. Don't worry. It's only daybreak now. Maybe they'll all come later. Everyone spoke one after another, discussing spiritedly. Sure enough, you've come. Lu Wujian looked at Yi Chen. Yi Chen said indifferently, no need to waste time. You and I will decide the winner and loser. No. Lu Wujian shook his head. I'm not sure if you have the qualifications to fight with me. If you want to fight with me, you'll have to defeat Gu Lai first. Arrogant. So arrogant. Does he think this is the West Ocean? Hearing these words, the spectators were filled with righteous indignation. Yi Chen, I'll fight in your place. Just as Yi Chen was about to speak, Yen Fengfeng appeared. She had seen Gu Lai's strength with her own eyes, and it was indeed powerful. She didn't have 50% assurance, but she had the advantage of speed. Even if she couldn't win, it would be hard for him to injure her. In this aspect, no one else could compare to her. Be careful. Yi Chen didn't refuse. He was very clear about Yen Fengfeng's advantage and strength. Swish. Abruptly, from the northwest, a beam of light shot over, blade chi crisscrossing. We both use blades. Let me fight him. The light dispersed, revealing a human figure standing in the sky. It was a proud and aloof young man. If it wasn't Dugaju, who else could it be? His eyes landed on Gu Lai as he said indifferently. Yen Fengfeng hesitated for a bit, then backed off. Since Dugaju was here, there was no need for her to fight with Gu Lai. Most importantly, she felt that her chances of winning were not high, and she might very well lose. Dugaju. It's Dugaju. I didn't expect him to only be one step behind Yi Chen. I was worried when he would come. Haha, Yi Chen is here. Dugaju is here. What is there to worry about? Dugaju's arrival had boosted everyone's confidence. Before, they were still worried about Yi Chen being alone. But now all the problems had been solved. Bring out your blade. Dugaju was the first to gain the upper hand as he looked at Gu Lai with a condescending attitude. 99 blade strikes, I will defeat you. Gu Lai looked at Dugaju with a serious expression. He could feel that the latter's blade aura was not weaker than his at all. Moreover, it carried an aura that made people feel despair. 99 blade strikes. Even if you attack 1,000 times, you won't be able to harm a single hair of mine. Dugaju sneered. First blade strike. Gu Lai didn't waste any time. He pulled out his long blade, and the muscles in his right arm bulged as he slashed out diagonally. It was not over yet. After the first blade strike, Gu Lai's second blade strike followed closely. One blade strike after another, a total of 9 blade strikes. Each blade strike was aimed at the blind spots, fast as lightning. Clang, 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 clang. Dugaju pulled out his long and thin blade, bouncing off all of Gulai's attacks. He seemed to be very relaxed, as if he had done it with ease. So powerful. Dugaju is even more powerful than before. Even Gulai's 9 blade strikes couldn't threaten him at all. Dugaju defeat him? The crowd roared. Beside Lu Xiaoyu, by Wuxia praised. He is indeed one of the monstrous geniuses. His improvement is not something that ordinary people can compare with. Although Bai Wuxia was ranked 4th on the master ranking, and Dugaju was ranked 2nd, Bai Wuxia might not lose to Dugaju if they went all out in a battle. However, it was obvious that Dugaju had become stronger, and it was not just a little bit stronger. He could use his blade techniques with ease and familiarity. Yi Chen, how many moves do you think it will take to decide the winner? Morong Qingqing asked Yi Chen. Yi Chen thought for a while and said, more than 300 moves. The winner will most likely be Dugaju. You think Dugaju will win? The despair blade intent is very difficult to control. Dugaju was able to restrain it, and only release it at the moment of attack. This proves that his realm has improved again. Yes, it is a little different. Morong Qingqing nodded faintly. Bring out your killing move. Otherwise you will lose miserably. Dugaju was so powerful that even Gulai was starting to be affected by him. This was unimaginable in the past because Gulai's entrance was too domineering. He defeated Chu Zhongtian, who had one of the best defenses with 3 saber strikes. Brother Gu, defeat him for me. The multicolor-robed lady shouted, feeling very unhappy. Gulai was not in the mood to deal with the multicolor-robed lady. Dugaju's strength had exceeded his expectations. He felt like he was fighting against Lu Wujian, and he was on the defensive at every turn. Purgatory Chop. With his mind, chi and spirit at a high level, Gulai flew up and hacked down with his saber. The gray saber chi connected the sky and earth, ruthless and tyrannical. Good. Dugaju did not retreat or dodge. He waved the saber in his hand, and a despairing aura burst out, causing the sky to turn white. Boom! Dugaju fell down, and his feet stepped on the lake, creating ripples. Gulai somersaulted a few times in the air, before landing on a mountain peak. With this move, Dugaju had the upper hand. Tyrannical 24 saber strikes. Feeling that his killing move was slightly weaker, Gulai stomped on the mountain peak and flashed, arriving at Dugaju in the blink of an eye. He waved his saber again and again, choosing to engage in close combat. Clang! 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 How could Dugaju be afraid of him? He waved his saber to meet the attacks. Above the lake and in the sky, saber lights flashed everywhere. Chi exploded, and the two's figures could not be seen anymore. It was as if they had hidden in the void. Crack! Waves of saber chi leaked out, and the surroundings of the 9-dragon lake became unrecognizable. Such a fast exchange. The battle between 2 saber users is more exciting than I had imagined. Too powerful. If I go up, I'm afraid I won't even see their silhouettes before getting killed. Hearing the discussions of the crowd, the multicolor-robed woman creased her brows. She originally believed that the continent had no experts, and had long since declined. However, the appearance of Dugaju was like a sharp saber, shattering her confidence in Gulai. This Dugaju was indeed very powerful. She had no idea where he had come from. Saber of Despair. Dugaju's pupils turned eerily white as he slashed out with his saber. Despair chi condensed into a line, and bombarded Gulai along with the saber chi. Not good. Gulai thought that his saber speed was fast enough, but Dugaju was actually a bit faster than him. He promptly raised his saber to block, and lowered his center of gravity. Clang! Glaring sparks burst forth as Gulai's feet slid on the lake water, his clothes torn. Despair Fox. Dugaju didn't show any mercy. His saber chi became even more vigorous, as he slashed out a demonic fox phantom. The demonic fox phantom had a sinister appearance and densely packed sharp teeth. Exuding a dense despair chi, it bit at Gulai. Sky Absolute Tyrannical Saber. Blue veins popping out on his forehead, Gulai furiously roared. His aura erupted fiercely, and his entire body seemed to turn into a giant as he forcefully slashed out with his saber. Swoosh. The mournful saber light slashed at the demonic fox phantom. Roar. Before the demonic fox phantom was slashed apart, it spat out a pale white beam of light, which struck Gu Lai's protective Zhen Yuan. With a gotcha sound, Gu Lai's protective Zhen Yuan was instantly shattered. Spurting out a mouthful of blood, he involuntarily flew back and fell on the lakeside. Gu Lai had been defeated by Dugaju. From start to finish, he hadn't been able to gain the upper hand. Dugaju's strength shocked everyone. Even Lu Wujian faintly creased his brows, feeling that Dugaju wasn't easy to deal with. Others couldn't compare to him. Turns out he's the most powerful person on True Spirit Continent. That sword master of the continent only has an undeserved reputation. The multicolor-robed woman said. Interesting. Defeating all the geniuses of True Spirit Continent is my goal this time. But if I were to defeat him effortlessly, it would be too boring. Seems like he's my strongest opponent. Lu Wujian had the thought of fighting. Opponents were hard to come by, and he had always been invincible in West Ocean. It was truly boring. Chapter 707. No wonder he could keep up with Yi Chen. He is simply too powerful. If Yi Chen's improvement speed drops even a little bit, he would be in danger of being surpassed. Li Xiaoyan sucked in a deep breath and mumbled to himself. Yi Chen's unbelievable rise made Li Xiaoyan cautious. Although Dugaju was powerful, he could not say that Dugaju had surpassed Yi Chen. Regardless, Yi Chen was from the southern regions. Emotionally, he was more biased towards Yi Chen. Yi Chen's expression is very calm. Jing Aoshuan wanted to say something, but after seeing Yi Chen's calm expression, she became pensive. Fortunately, I did not attack. Situ Hao frowned deeply. He had discovered that the geniuses of the Sky Martial region had started to split into two groups. The strong ones were getting stronger, and the weak ones were also getting stronger. However, the gap between their strengths was getting bigger and bigger. He was already showing signs of being left behind, which was not a good sign. All right, I will not fight for one day, but for eternity. A strong sense of danger made Situ Hao put away his arrogance. The great era was coming, and the levels of geniuses were becoming clearer. Among the former top 5 young warriors, only Bai Wuxia was still standing on the front lines with Yi Chen and Dugaju. The others were starting to fall. From this moment on, it would be clear who had the potential to reach the life and death realm. It was like a huge wave washing away the sand. Only those who could endure the test would have the possibility of not being eliminated. If he did not work hard, even the second line would be in danger. You are qualified to be my opponent now. Lu Wujian looked at Dugaju, his battle intent rising. Chin. Putting his blade back into its scabbard, Dugaju flashed onto a mountain peak and said, My only opponent is Yi Chen. Let's talk after you defeat him. Lu Wujian and Yi Chen both used swords. Before Yi Chen revealed his strength, Dugaju would not turn his opponent into Lu Wujian. Alright, defeating him is not hard. Lu Wujian's expression froze slightly. Dugaju's rejection made him a bit unhappy. As far as he was concerned, being acknowledged by Dugaju was already something to be proud of. Lu Wujian. Just when Lu Wujian was about to look at Yi Chen, Lu Xiaoyu walked out in front of everyone's shocked gazes. Frowning, Lu Wujian said, Half a year ago, you were not my opponent. It is still the same now. You should step down. Indeed, I am not confident of defeating you. However, you might not be able to defeat me as easily as you did half a year ago, Lu Xiaoyu said as he placed his hand on the hilt of his sword. Oh, it looks like you have made great progress in the past half a year. You will know whether I have made any progress or not when you try. There is no need for Brother Lu to make a move. I will try you. The colorful clothed lady was a spectator of the fight between Lu Xiaoyu and Lu Wujian half a year ago. She knew Lu Xiaoyu's strength very well. She did not believe that Lu Xiaoyu could have made great progress in the past half a year. After all, half a year ago, Lu Xiaoyu could not even withstand 10 sword strikes from Lu Wujian. Hence, Lu Xiaoyu was not worthy of Lu Wujian making a move. Take this. With the long whip in her hand, the colorful clothed lady attacked Lu Xiaoyu with the wind flame whip. Seeing this, a cold light flashed in Lu Xiaoyu's eyes. He instantly unsheathed his sword and swung it. Dozens of arc-shaped sword chi shot out and approached the colorful clothed lady. Puff, 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 puff. The whip and the sword chi collided and produced a series of explosions. However, Lu Xiaoyou's sword wasn't that simple. The dozens of sword chi had different trajectories. Some flew in the air, some slashed straight, some arced, and some were full of power. After the colorful clothed lady's whip was cancelled out, there were still several sword chi that attacked her at lightning speed. Fire crystal shield. The colorful clothed lady quickly used a defensive profound martial skill. There was a loud bang. In the next moment, the colorful clothed lady retreated 10 steps. Her face was filled with shock. How is this possible? His strength has increased by more than 50% in the past half a year. She couldn't help but be shocked. Wuxia nodded slightly. Lu Xiaoyu wasn't someone who would get depressed so easily. Failure would only make him improve faster. This had been proven in the past. Clearly, losing to Lu Wujian in 10 moves half a year ago didn't make Lu Xiaoyu quiet. Instead, it made him cultivate even more crazily, bursting out his unprecedented potential. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come out to challenge Lu Wujian. So that's how it is. Good. Let's warm up before the big battle. I hope you won't disappoint me. Lu Wujian's clothes were very long, just like his long hair. They fluttered in the wind. He stood in the air and walked toward Lu Xiaoyu step by step. Finally, he stopped 100 steps away. Make your move. Lu Wujian placed his left hand behind his back. Void Kill Sword Art. When Lu Wujian walked over, Lu Xiaoyu had been accumulating his strength and sword aura. When Lu Wujian stopped, he made his move. The distance between them seemed to be ignored. Lu Xiaoyu waved his sword. A strong wind rose, and the sword chi filled the sky. Break. Lu Wujian's left hand was still behind his back. He held the sword hilt with his right hand and pulled it out. Then he clashed a few times in the air, breaking all the sword chi. Fast. Extremely fast. Lu Wujian's sword art was even faster than Lu Xiaoyou's Void Kill Sword Art. The sword chi that filled the sky couldn't even get close to him. Void Kill Sword. Lu Xiaoyu naturally knew that Lu Wujian's sword speed was out of this world. Almost no one in the world could compete with it. But he was already prepared for it, so he wasn't surprised. Letting out a breath, Lu Xiaoyou's Zhen Yuan burst out, pouring into the longsword in his hand. The longsword twisted a bit, bringing up an invisible wind as it stabbed toward Lu Wujian, who was not far away. Pop. Lu Wujian's position was refracted, as if he was in a mirror, and this mirror could shatter at any moment. Your attack power is enough, but it still can't do anything to me. Lu Wujian held his sword with one hand and swept it upward, using the most vigorous and boundless shifting ocean sword chi. Immediately, a deep white sword chi engulfed the heaven and earth, cleanly breaking Lu Xiaoyou's sword aura. The spatial refraction effect also vanished like smoke in thin air. Whoosh! The remaining moving ocean sword chi didn't stop, attacking toward Lu Xiaoyu. He saw the weakness of Lu Xiaoyou's sword attack. Wuxia knew Lu Xiaoyou's ace attack very well. That void kill sword seemed to be close to shattering the space, but it was actually a trick. Wind was everywhere, and the flow of air was wind. This void kill sword contained the profound of wind, which could cause the wind to go berserk and destabilize the space. However, it was still a long way from truly shattering the space. Of course, even though it was a trick, the power of this void kill sword was not to be underestimated. The only weakness was that the attack range was too big, and the power was not concentrated. Otherwise, this sword attack would definitely be the most powerful one. Chaotic Wind Chop. Facing the incoming deep white sword chi, Lu Xiaoyu didn't panic at all. The long sword in his hand drew a circle in the air, creating a storm of sword chi. Bang! 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 The deep white sword chi was shattered, turning into thousands of sword threads. Lu Xiaoyu was careless, and was hit by a few of the sword threads. His sleeves and shoulder clothes were torn, and he got hit in the chest as well. Blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth. This doesn't look good. Lu Xiaoyou's power has improved very quickly, and he might be able to return to the top 5 young giants. But Lu Wujian is too strong. Holding his sword with one hand, he can suppress Lu Xiaoyu. It doesn't seem like he is getting serious. It's my turn. Lu Wujian took a step forward and instantly appeared before Lu Xiaoyu. The long sword in his hand disappeared, and a white sword screen covered the latter. Ding! 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 Sparks flew everywhere as Lu Xiaoyu did his best to block Lu Wujian's attacks. The speed of his attacks became faster and faster, and without him realizing it, he had already surpassed his limits. There is indeed improvement. Lu Wujian put down his left hand, which was behind his back. His body became more agile, and his sword chi was sometimes as violent as thunder, sometimes as swift as the wind, and sometimes as ferocious as the waves. Pung! Unable to dodge, Lu Xiaoyu was sent flying hundreds of meters away by a sword chi. More and more blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth, but his eyes were still bright. Metal wind! Holding his sword with both hands, Lu Xiaoyu used the result of the past half a year. It was his strongest killing move, a mid-tier metal wind fusion profound sword move. The golden sword wind was very tangible, and it swept toward Lu Wujian. Lu Wujian's brows twitched. This Lu Xiaoyu wasn't that strong half a year ago, but now, his power was almost at Master Sky Sword's level. Not only did he receive nearly 100 moves from him, he had also developed an even stronger killing move. Without any hesitation, Lu Wujian also used his killing move, 1,000-mile thread. Puchi! The golden sword winds collided against the line of sword energy. The golden sword winds were instantly sliced apart. However, the golden sword winds were seemingly endless, and a significant amount of the line of sword energy's power was whittled away. Shockwaves of gold and white intersected as a result, which assailed the two cultivators. Spurting out a large mouthful of blood, Lu Xiaoyu finally couldn't hold on any longer, and his body was sent flying. As for Lu Wujian, he also retreated dozens of steps. This was the first time he had been forced back. Sigh, Lu Xiaoyu lost as well. Even though he lost, it's still a glorious defeat. Half a year ago, Lu Xiaoyu couldn't even receive 10 sword strikes from Lu Wujian. But now, he has received 100, and his power has increased by nearly half. Lu Xiaoyu must know that he can't win, and he just wants to test his strength. Not being able to receive 10 sword strikes was very humiliating, but receiving 100 sword strikes was completely different. Although Lu Wujian didn't seem to be going all out, letting out a breath, Yi Chen said, "It's my turn." "Don't be careless," Morong Qingqing reminded Yi Chen. "I know. With his strength, I can't afford to be careless." Facing the wind, Yi Chen's sword aura burst out, spreading out like the night, covering the entire Nine-Dragon Mountain and Nine-Dragon Lake. Without needing any reminder, everyone's attention was drawn over. In everyone's eyes, the world seemed to have disappeared, and only Yi Chen remained. The world they felt was deathly silent. Those who were closer to Yi Chen discovered that they couldn't even speak. It was like they had fallen into a nightmare. They could think, but they couldn't move their bodies. What a terrifying sword intent. Bai Wuxia took a deep breath, his eyes filled with shock. Dugaju was also somewhat shocked. His hands and feet trembled in excitement. This was a feeling that no one else could give him. Such nervousness, such anticipation. Chapter 708. Because Yi Chen's sword intent was pointed in Lu Wujian's direction, the multicolor-robed woman was also affected. She retreated several steps and said with a pale face, "Impossible." She had never seen a sword intent of this level. Compared to Yi Chen's, even Lu Wujian was somewhat inferior, which was hard for her to accept. "Lu Wujian, now you should know why I don't want to fight with you. You don't have the qualifications to look down on Yi Chen." Dugaju's eyes blossomed with a strange splendor as he inwardly said. The long sword at his waist trembled unceasingly, as if ready to be unsheathed at any moment. Lu Wujian's eyes narrowed into slits, and an ice-cold light flowed within. He could feel a heavy threat from Yi Chen's body. This threat was no longer self-defined, but an instinctive one. If even his body could feel the threat, one could easily imagine how powerful Yi Chen was. Very good. This is the first time I, Lu Wujian, have underestimated someone. Indeed, I've underestimated you. But so what? You'll still lose to me. Pressing his left hand on the tip of the sword hilt, Lu Wujian straightened his back. A swift and fierce sword intent pierced through the sky, colliding with Yi Chen's sword intent. Countless fine explosions resounded in the void, and a chaotic will storm appeared out of nowhere, spreading in all directions. Ah! Blood-curdling screams resounded one after another. The people nearby felt as if their heads were about to split open, as they frantically retreated, avoiding the assault of the will storm. Will storm! Retreat! This is a clash of king-level wills. Someone in the crowd cried out in alarm. Yi Chen's destruction sword intent was at the 5th step, and its might was equivalent to an ordinary 6th step sword intent. Lu Wujian's sword intent was also at the 5th step, but not an ordinary one. It was a relatively rare firmament sword intent. Although it couldn't compare to the destruction sword intent, it was much more powerful. The clash of their sword intents was equivalent to the clash of two life and death kings. One could easily imagine the destructive power produced. Of course, although the two sword intents were powerful, they were not life and death kings after all. Their usage of sword intents was much weaker than life and death kings, and belonged to the bottom tier. However, the clash of king-level sword intents was not ordinary after all. If one did not retreat, one's soul might be crushed by the will storm, and die miserably on the spot. The sword intent itself didn't have any color, but it did when used on the outside world. Yi Chen's destruction sword intent was filled with a devouring black color, without a trace of brilliance. Lu Wujian's firmament sword intent was white with a hint of blue. It was neither strong nor weak, gentle yet carrying a sharp aura. The two sword intents clashed, causing the black and white to clash in the sky above the Nine-Dragon Mountain. The black was a bit stronger, suppressing the white and occupying a large area, while the white held its ground and waited for an opportunity to counterattack. Wave slash! With the sword intent suppressed, Lu Wujian's Zhen Yuan gushed out of his body and poured into the longsword in his hand. The longsword let out a long ringing sound and slashed toward Yi Chen like a deep white ocean wave. Swoosh! The black and white were torn apart, and a mark pierced through the two colors, rushing straight toward Yi Chen on the mountain peak. Pulling out the Thunder Disaster Sword, Yi Chen waved it in the air. The black sword chi was like a crack in the void, swallowing half of the wave-shaped sword chi, while the other half was also annihilated, dissipating into nothingness. Impressive, but it's still not enough. Lu Wujian laughed loudly. Dressed in a long robe, his body turned into a long rainbow, arriving in an instant. He launched hundreds of sword attacks at Yi Chen in a row. Each sword attack was unbelievably fast, as if one person had turned into hundreds of people, waving their swords at the same time, aiming straight at Yi Chen's vitals. Too fast. It's twice as fast as the battle with Lu Xiaoyu. Can a human really have such a powerful sword speed? West Ocean Sword Master is not called that for nothing. This is a battle between sword masters. Look, Yi Chen's sword art is also very fast. His hand and sword have already disappeared, leaving only sword chi. Amidst the discussions of the crowd, Yi Chen rushed toward Lu Wujian, waving his Thunder Disaster Sword to the extreme, blocking Lu Wujian's attacks one after another. Not only that, although Yi Chen was in the countercurrent, his counterattack had even caused the countercurrent to stagnate, standing on equal footing. Ding 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 ding. If the battle between Dugaju and Gu Lai was said to have reached a limit in both speed and power, then the battle between Lu Wujian and Yi Chen was said to have both surpassed that limit and continued to rise, seeming to be endless. Because their speed was too fast, and their swords were also fast, their figures didn't disappear. On the contrary, they moved in a different direction. In the sky, the figures of the two were everywhere. From 10 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 80. 100 Yi Chens and 100 Lu Wujians were exchanging blows in different postures. Some raised their swords against each other, some chased each other, some competed in exquisite sword arts, and some fought in the air, causing chi energies to explode. Far away from the Nine-Dragon Lake, the crowd was dumbfounded, all of them dumbfounded. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would never have believed that there would be someone who could use sword arts to such an outrageous level. And it was not one, but two. Lu Wujian's strength was beyond their imagination. Yi Chen's strength also shocked them once again. The West Ocean Sword Master versus the continent's Sword Master. This was a battle between sword masters, rarely seen in 100 years. Moving sea sword chi. A small part of Lu Wujian's figure disappeared, and a clear figure condensed, waving a dark white sword chi that swept through the sky and earth. Puff, 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 puff. Dozens of Yi Chen's figures were broken, like a rag wiping on a dusty glass, instantly clearing a large area. Infinite golden ripples. Dark golden ripples burst out, blooming in circles. Wherever Yi Chen's figure moved, the Lu Wujian would be destroyed. With Yi Chen as the center, the area within a radius of several thousand meters became a world of ripples, and Yi Chen was the master of this world. The last figure was destroyed, and Lu Wujian's real body rushed towards Yi Chen, his long robe fluttering in the wind, and he shouted, "Retreat!" It was still the moving sea sword chi, but this time, it turned the sky above Nine Dragon Lake into an ocean. Now this ocean was rolling, and it carried a terrifying power and momentum, immediately swallowing the ripple world around Yi Chen. This moving sea sword chi is too majestic, and there is no way to deal with it. I wonder how Yi Chen is going to deal with it. Everyone could see that Lu Wujian was going all out, and the power of the moving sea sword chi was not something that Lu Xiaoyu could compare to. With one sword, the ocean rolled, and the mountains moved, and the power was terrifying. When a person faced the entire ocean, it was inevitable that they would feel small. Break! A black pillar of sword chi shot out from the ocean, dyeing the entire ocean a dark white. Countless cracks appeared on the edges, making it look like a gigantic glowing body. However, the light that came from within was black, and a destructive aura wantonly emanated from it. Rumble! A sky-shaking sound rang out, and Yi Chen flew out. He actually broke my all-out moving sea sword chi. Lu Wujian was slightly surprised. Be it the battle with Zhong Sky Sword or Lu Xiaoyu, he had never been serious. If one move didn't work, he would change to another. But when he fought with Yi Chen, he couldn't casually change his moves. His trump card should be used on the edge of the blade, and he wouldn't use it a second time. Unfortunately, he still underestimated Yi Chen's strength. Back when Yi Chen fought with Zhong Sky Sword, his destruction sword intent hadn't reached the 5th step. With the 5th step sword intent, Yi Chen didn't even need the Imperial Sword Art to defeat Zhong Sky Sword. Moreover, although this moving sea sword chi had a majestic momentum, it didn't have much use against Yi Chen. The wider the attack range, the more openings there would be. Even if there were no openings, he would still be able to create one. In the eyes of Lu Xiaoyu, the moving sea sword chi was unbelievably powerful. But in the eyes of Yi Chen, it was nothing. Thunder Devour. After successfully escaping, Yi Chen didn't hesitate at all as he slashed at Lu Wujian. A black thunderball tore through the sky, rushing over with a destructive aura. Not good. Lu Wujian could tell how terrifying this move was, so he executed the moving sea sword chi again. Bang! The thunderball exploded, and the moving sea sword chi was shattered. Lu Wujian was forced back dozens of steps, his clothes fluttering in the wind. Yi Chen chased after him. One after another, black thunderballs flew across the sky like a group of mobile cannons, burning brightly. Lu Wujian retreated again and again, gradually being suppressed. The first rank of the Master Warrior ranking is still his this year. Bai Wuxia carefully watched the two's battle, and analyzed the information from the previous battle between Lu Wujian and Lu Xiaoyu. He came to a shocking conclusion. Yi Chen's strength was at least twice that of Lu Xiaoyu. This was probably the first time that Lu Wujian, who was known as the Western Ocean Sword Master, had been suppressed by someone. Sword Master Yi Chen could no longer be described as strong. To be more precise, he was dominating the entire situation. The other spectators felt their blood boiling as well. The strength that Yi Chen had erupted with far surpassed their expectations. Not only had he fought with Lu Wujian until now, but he had also gradually gained the initiative. Humph! Brother Lu has not even revealed his trump card yet. Open your eyes wide and watch. The multicolor-clothed woman's face was filled with disdain. Sword Master Yi Chen is indeed very strong, ridiculously strong. Unfortunately, your opponent is Lu Wujian. Very few people know how terrifying he is. Gulai had only suffered some light injuries, nothing serious. Now he stood beside the colorful robed woman and watched the battle between the two. A thousandly thread. Finally, Lu Wujian used his killing move, an all-out killing move. The deep white sword chi condensed into a line and flashed in the air. Immediately, several thunder balls were cut apart. Although the broken thunder balls did not lose their momentum and continued to shoot over, they were much weaker. Lu Wujian blocked and broke them with his sword. After stabilizing the situation, Lu Wujian held his breath and swept his sword diagonally. The condensed sword chi passed through the gaps and headed for Yi Chen. If this sword strike landed, even Chu Zhongtian would be severely injured and on the verge of death. Its attack power and momentum were terrifying. Thunder Devour, condense. Yi Chen did not panic. He held his sword with both hands and slashed out with a heavy and swift posture. Crack! Black thunder and lightning gathered at the tip of the sword and shot out, forming a thunderball. The thunderball's shape changed from a perfect circle to an oval, and from an oval to an oblate. It was like a shuttle, a black ball of light. The compressed thunderball was so fast that it blurred Yi Chen's vision. It clashed with the sword chi that had been condensed into a line. With a cracking sound, the deep white sword chi was cut in half. It brushed past Yi Chen's body and pierced through the two mountains behind him, going deep into the ground. And the black ball of light turned into a beam of light and rushed toward Lu Wujian. The power of the beam of light decreased a lot, but Lu Wujian still took a few steps back, his chi and blood fluctuating. Not bad at all. This is the first time I've met someone who can be evenly matched with me. You are the first. Unfortunately, my strength is not something you can imagine. Meeting me is your misfortune, and also the beginning of your failure. Lu Wujian's expression was calm, but his eyes became extremely sharp. When he looked at them, they felt like there were countless swords stabbing into their eyes. Chapter 709. This is what I wanted to say to you as well. Yi Chen squinted his eyes slightly. As he opened and closed his eyes, a bright light condensed into a line, looking like two silver beams of light. A wild wind blew, causing his black hair to dance in the air like clouds. Interesting. Yi Chen was not only the first powerful opponent Lu Wujian had ever met, but also the first one to look down on him. This made him so angry that he started laughing instead, feeling that he was being looked down upon. Since you are so confident, then I will beat you until you lose your confidence. I, Lu Wujian, have roamed the West Ocean for 10 years without losing once. Today, I will not lose either. The one who will lose will be you. Putting the longsword back into its scabbard, Lu Wujian's body slightly leaned forward. His right hand was placed on the sword hilt, and his sword aura was condensed. Is that so? You will be disappointed. The Thunder Disaster sword pointed downwards, and strands of black sword light shot out from its tip. Yi Chen's posture did not change, as he looked straight at Lu Wujian. Whale breaking water, crazy kill. When the sword aura had accumulated to its peak, the instant it would explode if it continued to accumulate, Lu Wujian made his move. Clang! A resplendent blue-white sword light illuminated the horizon, seeming like a boundless ocean. Amidst the clear and crystalline waves, a colossus broke out of the water. It was a huge whale, not condensed from Zhen Yuan but sword chi. It was somewhat similar to Dugaju's Fox of Despair. However, compared to Fox of Despair, this huge whale was even more tyrannical and frightening. With a biting cold killing intent, the huge whale leaped into the air, opened its mouth, and attempted to swallow Yi Chen. The spectating experts in Yi Chen's position were overwhelmed with shock. The huge whale opened its mouth, revealing a pitch-black darkness inside. It was incomparably huge, as if it was a black hole that was constantly expanding. It seemed as if it was going to swallow the heaven and earth in front of it. They couldn't help but subconsciously take a few steps back. If you want to swallow, I'll let you swallow. Raising the Thunder Disaster sword high above his head, Yi Chen held it with both of his hands. Streams of black electric currents gathered on the tip of the sword, and in the next second, a thunder ball appeared out of nowhere, spinning at a high speed. In just a blink of an eye, the thunder ball had expanded to a few meters in size, and no matter how much it was compressed, it could not shrink. Go! The thunder disaster sword slashed out with all its might, and a huge thunder ball flew into the whale's mouth, entering its body through its throat. Gurgle! A muffled sound rang out, and the giant whale's momentum slowed down. Its body swelled unnaturally, like an inflated balloon, and continued to inflate. Boom! As its body swelled to its limit, the giant whale exploded into pieces. A black and white shockwave spread out in a ring shape, and a black and white mushroom cloud shot up into the sky, poking a huge hole in the sky. At that moment, Yi Chen felt like a nuclear bomb had exploded in front of him. His body was blown away by the shockwave, and after a slight pause, he was blown backward like a piece of paper. Lu Wujian was not feeling good either. He did not expect Yi Chen's Thunder Devour to have so many changes. Before, it was compressing the thunder ball to increase its power, and now, it was pouring in a huge amount of Zhen Yuan to increase its explosive power. Judging from the size of the thunder ball and its explosive power, the thunder profound contained in this move had exceeded the entry realm by quite a bit, at least 40%. Just the thunder ball's explosive power was huge, and the giant whale was an enclosed environment. The thunder ball's explosive power was unimaginable. Because of all these factors, the shockwave this time was unprecedentedly fierce. It was so fierce that it formed a ring-shaped circle, and all the power was gathered together. It wasn't a continuous shockwave. Creak! An unpleasant grinding sound came from the protective Zhen Yuan. Lu Wujian only felt his body go numb, and he was blown backward involuntarily. The scenery on both sides was getting further and further away from him, turning into a blur. Retreat again. The shockwave was too ferocious, forming a circular chi wave. Apart from a few people, the rest retreated several li in succession. Yi Chen and Lu Wujian's figures had already turned into two small dots. Fortunately, by circulating Zhen Yuan to their eyes, they could still see clearly. What a powerful shockwave! The mountain under their feet turned into ashes in an instant. Bai Wuxia and the rest leaped up and stood in the air, their protective Zhen Yuan flickering. Break! Gulai stood in front of the multicolor-robed woman, condensing a Zhen Yuan saber on his protective Zhen Yuan and splitting the shockwave in half. This even Brother Lu's whale-breaking water was broken? The multicolor-robed woman could not understand what was going on. Gulai said with a solemn expression, "It's not the final moment yet." Right, Brother Lu's strongest trump card has not been used yet. The multicolor-robed woman regained her confidence in Lu Wujian and stared at the center of the explosion without blinking. After flying for about 7 or 8 li, Yi Chen finally stopped. He squinted his eyes to prevent the bright light from hurting them. He should still have killing moves, worthy of being the West Ocean Sword Master. Apart from not using Golden Hurricane or defensive sword art, Yi Chen had already gone all out. Lu Wujian was the strongest swordsman he had met so far, so he could not afford to be careless. You can actually break my whale-breaking water. Lu Wujian's calm expression turned grave. He had already realized that Yi Chen was not that easy to defeat. If he did not use all of his skills, he might not even be able to harm a single hair of his opponent. It could be said that Yi Chen was the biggest obstacle in his life. Either he tripped over the obstacle and fell to the ground, or he could step over it and continue forward. I will not lose. Lu Wujian had never thought that he would lose, and it was the same this time. Roar! The sky-piercing cloudy sword intent increased crazily. An extremely powerful aura spread out from Lu Wujian's body, and his Zhen Yuan rose steadily. It seemed that he had used some secret technique to activate it, allowing him to exert a power far beyond his limit. Because the sword intent was too strong, and the cloudy sword intent was a sword intent with a relatively strong explosive power, it caused the aura outside Lu Wujian's body to condense into numerous illusory sword shadows. They were not man-made but natural. In the blink of an eye, Lu Wujian was covered by the sword shadows, looking like a hedgehog with sword shadows. The extremely sharp sword aura scared a lot of people. Lu Wujian is about to go crazy. What a terrifying sword aura. This Lu Wujian's power is simply limitless. I wonder if Yi Chen can handle it. Look, Yi Chen is activating his sword intent as well. The crowd was first attracted by Lu Wujian, and then shifted their attention to Yi Chen. Yi Chen's destruction sword intent was even more powerful than Lu Wujian's cloudy sword intent. Once it was fully activated, the destructive aura was simply earth-shattering. Even the sky was dyed black. Above the sky, black lightning flashed endlessly. A huge black sword shadow condensed on Yi Chen's body. The sword shadow only released a bit of its sharpness, but it was already able to create a huge hole in the sky. Blood Sea Buddha. On the other side, Lu Wujian had already finished accumulating power. The surging aura around him caused the space around him to distort. Taking a step forward, Lu Wujian used every bit of strength in his body to swing his sword. As soon as the sword was unleashed, a bloody rain and a bloody sea spread out. Countless blood-colored sword shadows danced in the sky, turning the sky above the Nine-Dragon Lake into a bloody purgatory, covering Yi Chen. As he was increasing his sword intent, Yi Chen's cold eyes stared at Lu Wujian. He could see that Lu Wujian had not only comprehended the profound of wind and water, but also the extremely strange profound of blood. This Blood Sea Buddha was a combination of the profound of water and the profound of blood. Water and blood originally had something in common. Combining them, not only could the profound of water be improved, but it also allowed the profound of blood to be more powerful. It was a very overbearing profound martial art. Gold Hurricane. The combination of the profound of blood and the profound of water was very powerful. But the combination of the profound of metal and water of Yi Chen was not weak either. Metal gave birth to water, and there was a similar relationship between them. Once the two were combined, the power would increase rapidly, creating a cycle. The Thunder Disaster sword shone with a dark golden luster, as Yi Chen attacked with a horrifying destructive sword intent. Puchi, a dark golden ripple of light shot out. Within the ripple of light, the ripples pushed forward layer by layer, reaching the front. In the blink of an eye, its power had increased by leaps and bounds. It slammed into the blood-colored world, punching a hole in it and rushing in. Crackle! The blood-colored sword shadow and the ripple beam clashed together, shattering into pieces. On the surface of the blood sea, a deep sword mark was plowed out. The destructive sword intent filled the sword mark, continuously destroying the structure of the blood sea, causing huge waves to rise. The blood color gradually faded. Lu Wujian's face was cold and expressionless as he waved out another sword attack. The blood ocean covered the entire sky, and the sword shadows shot out everywhere. Break! Yi Chen did not waste any time. The Thunder Disaster sword danced again and again, shooting out beams of ripple beams, bombarding the layers of the blood world. Bang! 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 As the two of them fought, the sun and the moon dimmed, sand and pebbles flew everywhere. The violent blood-red sword wind and the black sword wind interweaved together, spinning around the two of them, colliding with each other. Eventually, they formed a tornado that was several miles thick, connecting the sky and the earth. In the center of the tornado, the two continued to attack each other, seeming as if they would not stop until one of them fell. Only one of them could walk out of here. Gulp. Among the spectators, there were people swallowing their saliva from time to time, releasing their nervous emotions. Watching the blood-colored light and black light in the tornado, as well as the dense lightning caused by the friction of energy, someone finally couldn't help but say, "Fuck! This is too exaggerated. They are both Sea of Soul Realm Master-level warriors, but this gap is too big. How is this a battle between two people? It looks like two Sea of Soul Realm armies fighting against each other. There is no way to resist at all. A battle between sword masters is indeed not something we can imagine. I wonder who among them will have the last laugh." As the battle continued, Yi Chen had already activated his dragon bone defense layer. A layer of white bone appeared on his skin, and his semi-extreme rank armor, the Muddy Sky armor, was also activated. Countless twisting blue symbols appeared on his protective Jin Yuan, increasing its defensive power. Even so, he still did not feel good. The qi and blood in his body were boiling like boiling water. On the other side, Lu Wujian also had a semi-extreme rank armor. It was a blue and white plate armor, which was slightly different from Yi Chen's muddy sky armor. This plate armor was releasing cloud-shaped symbols, which stuck on his protective Zhen Yuan like simple white clouds. Besides that, the necklace around his neck also released a dark blue light, forming a second layer of defense outside of his protective Zhen Yuan. Pung, 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 pung. Qi waves continuously bombarded the dark blue light, bringing up circles of twisting ripples, which made Lu Wujian tremble from time to time. My Serene Ocean necklace is also a semi-extreme rank artifact. With 2 layers of defense, it should be able to hold on. I would like to see how long you can last. At this moment, it was no longer a battle of strength but endurance. Whoever could not endure it first would lose. There was no other possibility. Chapter 710. This Lu Wujian actually has a semi-extreme grade accessory. Yin Fengfeng was a bit astonished. Among artifacts, the value of defensive artifacts was generally 2 times that of offensive artifacts, while accessory artifacts were 3 times that of offensive artifacts. The reason why they were so expensive wasn't because of how good they were. In fact, the aid they could provide was limited and couldn't compare to defensive and offensive artifacts. However, they were too rare, and the rarer they were, the more valuable they were. Moreover, one could only wear a single defensive artifact and hold 1 or 2 offensive artifacts. Any more would be a waste. However, wearing accessories could still increase one's battle power, such as necklaces, bracelets, earrings, rings, and so on. Without any exaggeration, if an ordinary Sea of Soul master were to wear a full set of semi-extreme grade defensive artifacts, hold a semi-extreme grade offensive artifact, and have a complete set of accessory artifacts, all of which were of semi-extreme grade, then even 2 Yi Chens wouldn't be able to do anything to the opponent, unless the opponent's Zhen Yuan was exhausted. Of course, this was impossible. A full set of semi-extreme grade defensive artifacts was something that even a 4th grade sect, the Void sect, couldn't collect. Moreover, a complete set of semi-extreme grade accessory artifacts was even more difficult than a full set of defensive artifacts. Being able to produce 1 or 2 was already quite amazing. Only in the ancient and medieval eras, when all kinds of artifact refining methods had not been lost, could such a thing happen. Lu Wujian's strength was already unpredictable, and adding a semi-extreme grade accessory, his defense had increased by a large margin. If this continued, Yi Chen would very likely lose. The situation is not good. Not to mention Lu Wujian's sword master level strength. He even has a semi-extreme grade accessory. How can he compete? Although the defense of a semi-extreme grade necklace is not as good as a semi-extreme grade armor, it's at least 60 to 70% effective. Could it be that Yi Chen will really lose? Everyone's face revealed a worried expression. Contrary to everyone else, the multicolor-robed woman revealed a joyous expression. So what if he's the continent's sword sect? He still has to make way for our West Ocean sword sect. Bang bang bang. In the tornado, the two had already exchanged over 100 moves, each with their full strength. For a moment the earth shook, and the sky turned dark. Yi Chen, admit defeat. You can't defeat me. Lu Wujian was very confident. In terms of defense he had 2 layers. In terms of cultivation base, he was already at peak level late Sea of Soul's realm, at the age of 32. His Zhen Yuan was much more abundant than Yi Chen's. Therefore, even if Yi Chen could endure the continuous attacks, his Zhen Yuan would be exhausted, and he would lose all of his battle power. The battle hasn't ended yet, so why should I admit defeat? Lu Wujian had 2 layers of defense, and so did Yi Chen. Although the Dragon Bone defense layer was not as powerful as a semi-extreme rank accessory, it was still very powerful. It had helped Yi Chen to offset a lot of the power, and saved him from getting hurt. You'll give up sooner or later. Lu Wujian secretly increased his strength, and his true essence flowed like water. The pressure on Yi Chen increased greatly, and he inwardly creased his brows. In terms of endurance, he naturally couldn't compete with Lu Wujian. In any case, the latter had a cultivation base of peak late Sea of Soul's realm, and his Zhen Yuan was 20 to 30% more vigorous than his. Even if the consumption was huge, he should still have 10% Jin Yuan left. Blood-severing ghost finger has more or less reached 20% maturity. Let's cut off a portion of his blood first. Waving the thunder disaster sword with his right hand, Yi Chun released a ripple of light, while his left hand slashed toward Lu Wujian. Like a judge's pen, he could judge a person's life and death. It possessed an indescribable boldness, causing others to feel indescribably frightened and panicky. Lu Wujian thought that Yi Chun was going to use finger arts to attack him. He disdainfully smiled and didn't take any measures. With 2 layers of defense, he didn't need to worry at all. However, when Yi Chun's sword finger slashed down, Lu Wujian's expression changed. For some reason, a small portion of his qi and blood had disappeared, as if it had evaporated. This small portion was only 1,000th of his qi and blood. It wasn't much, but anyone would feel uneasy if they discovered that a small portion of their qi and blood had mysteriously disappeared. What kind of finger art is this? Lu Wujian secretly raised his guard. The effect is not bad. This time, I'll be a bit more ruthless. Previously, it was just a test, so Yi Chun didn't use his full strength. Cut. Condensing Zhen Yuan on his sword finger, Yi Chun slashed toward his opponent again. Different from last time. As Yi Chun's sword finger slashed out, a withered white palm shadow appeared within Lu Wujian's protective Zhen Yuan. The white palm reached into Lu Wujian's body and grabbed out a blood light. It then clenched its fist, and the blood light dissipated into nothingness. How dare you cut off my blood and qi? Lu Wujian roared. He was shocked and angry at the same time. His blood and qi had suddenly been reduced by 5%. What kind of concept was this? Only when one was in his best condition could he use his peak battle power. Losing 5% of his blood and qi meant that his condition had instantly deteriorated, and his explosive power had dropped by a level. The people watching the battle exchanged glances. They could also tell that Yi Chun had used a horrifying finger art. It had forcibly cut off a part of Lu Wujian's blood and qi, and used another method to attack Lu Wujian. This is unbelievable. Not to mention Lu Wujian, even Yi Chun himself had not expected that his blood-severing ghost finger could display such power, cutting off 5% of his opponent's blood and qi. Moreover, that withered white palm shadow was filled with a deathly aura, which was completely out of place in this world. Of course, the blood-severing ghost finger also depended on who it was used on. If it was used on a body-refining expert like Wei Longtao, it would be good if it could cut off 1,000th of his blood and qi. This was not only because Wei Longtao had a lot of blood and qi, but also because of the high density of blood and qi of body-refining experts. Therefore, the blood-severing ghost finger would not be able to cut off too much blood and qi. It would be like cutting an iron board with a small knife. Continue to cut for me. After tasting the sweetness brought by the blood-severing ghost finger, Yi Chun was happy to save some of his strength. His left sword finger slashed in the air, and the withered white palm shadow appeared in Lu Wujian's protective Zhen Yuan for the second time. Get the hell out of here. Lu Wujian's sky sword intent exploded, attacking the white palm shadow wave after wave. The white palm shadow could ignore Zhen Yuan, but it could not ignore the sword intent. Its speed was reduced by a lot all of a sudden. Just as it took out a small portion of blood and qi from Lu Wujian's body, it was washed away by the sword intent, disappearing from Lu Wujian's sight along with the blood and qi. This time, the blood-severing ghost finger had only taken out 1% of the blood and qi, which was much worse than the last time. It turns out that the blood-severing ghost finger consumes soul power as well. Yi Chun suddenly realized that losing a portion of his soul power did not attract his attention at all. It was as if it had merged into the blood-severing ghost finger in a way that he could not understand. Only then did it have all sorts of miraculous effects, such as stealing the enemy's blood and qi out of thin air. Yi Chun, you will pay for this. With half of his blood and qi gone, Lu Wujian was extremely furious. He clenched his left hand into a fist, which was shining with a golden light, and threw out a punch towards Yi Chun. Boom! This punch even caused the tornado to show signs of collapsing. The fist's might was vast and mighty. It's a secret art. Yi Chun could tell with a single glance that the fist art Lu Wujian had performed was not a profound sense martial art, but a secret art. It was a super powerful art that could compress the fist power by several times, or even 10 times. Void-shattering finger. The sword fingers on his left hand changed as he reached out his index finger. Yi Chen pointed out his finger towards that golden fist, which was shining with a golden light. It was the void-shattering finger that he rarely used. However, this void-shattering finger had obviously reached completion, reaching 100%. Plus, it was the third movement of the void-shattering finger, which was much more powerful than the second movement of Chu Zhongtian's void-shattering finger. The cyan finger power ignored the spatial distance and clashed with the golden fist power. Pop. At the beginning of the clash, it should be the golden fist power that had the upper hand. However, the void-shattering finger was a space-profound martial art, which was good at assimilating energy. Although the golden fist power had suppressed it, a lot of its power had been assimilated, and it was gradually weakened. Under this kind of situation, the cyan finger power and the golden fist power had both perished. Up until now, both of them had almost used all of their trump cards, but neither of them could do anything to the other. Although Yi Chen's blood-severing ghost finger was powerful, it consumed a lot of soul power, so it could not be used frequently. Plus, Lu Wujian's Sky Sword intent had reached rank 5. If he was prepared, the effect of the blood-severing ghost finger would be minimal. Unless he could improve it further, it would not have much of an effect. Knowing that other attacks would not be able to do anything to the other, the two continued to exchange attacks. The situation had instantly reached its climax. The roaring tornado had sucked up all the water in the Nine-Dragon Lake, bringing it up into the sky before falling down again, causing a heavy rain to fall from the Nine-Dragon Mountain. I don't believe that you can block many of my attacks. Gnashing his teeth, Lu Wujian dashed towards Yi Chen, shortening the distance between them and increasing the effect of his attacks. Unexpectedly, Yi Chen did not choose to keep the distance. Instead, he dashed towards his opponent, waving his sword over and over again. It's close combat now. I'm afraid the winner will be decided soon. Everyone held their breaths. Boom, boom, boom. As the distance got closer, the effect of the attacks was not just a little bit stronger, but doubled or tripled. Both of their defenses seemed to be unable to handle it, and their blood and chi started to churn. Lu Wujian used all of his power and threw out a sword attack. A blood-colored ocean and endless blood-colored sword shadows attacked towards Yi Chen. Yi Chen's gold hurricane was not as powerful as his opponent's, but it was much more condensed. At such a close distance, the ripple of light pierced through the blood-colored world and hit Lu Wujian's protective Zhen Yuan. On the other hand, he had also been hit by the blood-colored sword shadows countless times. With a muffled snort, both of them were blown back for miles. Again, the two of them did not care about anything else as they continued to attack without any defense. They only hoped that their attacks could land on their opponent's body. As for whether they would be hit or not, it did not matter at all. Boom! Within a blink of an eye, Lu Wujian had been hit by 3 sword attacks, while Yi Chen had been hit by 2. Lu Wujian let out a fishy smell from his throat, while Yi Chen's face had turned a lot paler. Although Lu Wujian's defense was very high, he could not handle countless attacks. However, Yi Chen was able to handle his attacks, which surprised him greatly. However, when he saw the white bone layer on Yi Chen's palm, he realized that the latter must have used some kind of secret art to increase his physical defense. Let's see how long you can last. Lu Wujian continued to fight with Yi Chen. However, as time passed, Lu Wujian was horrified to discover that he was starting to feel like he couldn't hold on much longer. On the other hand, Yi Chen was still as brave as ever. It was as if the countless small injuries he had accumulated didn't affect him in the slightest, and had long since healed. How is this possible? Lu Wujian could not understand it at all. As for the people who were watching the battle, they were already numb to it. Chapter 711. Chu Zhongtian was one of them. The reason he was able to notice this detail was mainly because of his high defense. Therefore, he paid a lot of attention to it. However, He realized that no matter if it was Lu Wujian or Yi Chun, their endurance was way beyond his. Lu Wujian was still fine, since he had a semi-extreme rank armor and accessories, and his cultivation base was also at peak level late Sea of Soul's realm. His protective Zhen Yuan was extremely powerful, but Yi Chun only had a semi-extreme rank armor, and his cultivation base was also at peak level mid Sea of Soul's realm. Even if he had a secret art to increase his defense should still be weaker than Lu Wujian's. However, judging from the current situation, Yi Chun's endurance was way beyond Lu Wujian's. Lu Wujian was almost at his limit, while Yi Chun was still as powerful as ever. Even if I have a semi-extreme rank armor, I don't think I can win against him. For the school to be able to get a semi-extreme rank armor for Chu Zhongtian, it had already cost a lot of manpower and resources. Semi-extreme rank armor was extremely rare, and one might not be able to buy it even if one had spirit stones. Only those super auctions with countless treasures would have a chance. Therefore, the inner armor Chu Zhongtian was wearing was only a top of the upper rank armor. If he had a semi-extreme rank armor, Gulai would not have been able to wound him at all. Although it was only a light wound, it would not be a big deal. However, even if he had a semi-extreme rank armor and had the same power as Yi Chun, Chu Zhongtian did not have the confidence to exchange hundreds of attacks with Yi Chun. Lu Wujian was an example. Yi Chun's trump cards were far more than what they showed on the surface. If one thought that Yi Chun only had power, then one would be wrong. His scariness was in all aspects, and he had no weakness at all. If he wanted to attack, he had it, and if he wanted to defend, he had it. Even his recovery ability was a level higher than others. The more Lu Wujian fought, the more frightened and desperate he became. Yi Chun's ferocious performance was not fake, and it could be seen from his abundant essence qi. On the other hand, Lu Wujian had used up a lot of his essence qi. His whole body was aching, and even his bones were groaning. I can't go on like this. He still has at least 30% Zhen Yuan left. If he takes some Zhen Yuan replenishing pellets, it would not be a problem for him to recover to 40%. I cannot outlast him. Lu Wujian's expression was gloomy as he thought to himself. Unfortunately, he had still underestimated Yi Chun. Yi Chun had a whole bottle of semi-extreme rank pellets on him, which were enough to recover his Zhen Yuan to 100%. Of course, one pellet would be one less, and Yi Chun would not use them on Lu Wujian. After all, he still had a Dragon God medal, which stored 30% of his Zhen Yuan, which would allow him to recover to 60%. He did not need to worry about running out of Zhen Yuan at all. Boom! After another exchange, Lu Wujian felt a sweetness in his throat. He could not help but spurt out a mouthful of blood, but he forcefully suppressed it. Increase the distance. Lu Wujian did not want to exchange another attack with Yi Chun at such a close distance. He was sure that he would definitely spurt out blood and suffer from severe injuries. Shoo! As his figure turned, Lu Wujian retreated in a curve. Each time he reached a turning point, he would leave behind a clear human figure. However, this figure would not even last for a second before it would be pierced through by the light ripple, disappearing into thin air. It would almost injure Lu Wujian's body. Such a marvelous movement art. Yi Chun could tell that Lu Wujian would be able to increase his speed at each turning point and escape first, causing his attack to miss. This way, there was no pattern at all, unless he could determine the opponent's retreating route and speed. However, even if he could, it would be useless, since his attack speed would only be slightly faster than the opponent's retreating speed, and he would not be able to catch it unless he used his defensive sword art. Let's see what's going on first. To be honest, Yi Chun did not want to expose his defensive sword art until the last moment. Lu Wujian was the only one who could be evenly matched with him, which was something that even Duge Ju could not compare with. Yi Chun had a premonition that his opponent might have a trump card that he would not expose easily, just like him. Yi Chun's guess was right. Lu Wujian did have a trump card, but he would not use it unless it was the most crucial moment. Firstly, there was no opponent worthy of him using his trump card. Secondly, once his trump card was exposed, it would no longer be a trump card. All his strength would be deduced by others, and there would be no secrets to speak of. This was not what Lu Wujian wanted to see. But now, he had no choice but to use his trump card. Yi Chen's strength was beyond his expectations. If he continued to fight, the possibility of him losing was very high. He could not tolerate losing to Yi Chen. Therefore, he had to expose his trump card. There was no other choice. After retreating for about 10 miles, Lu Wujian stopped and stood steadily at the edge of the hurricane. Seeing that Yi Chen did not chase after him, Lu Wujian took a few rapid breaths, suppressing his boiling qi and blood and chaotic Jun Yuan. Yi Chen, you should be honored. You are the first person in many years who could force me to use my strongest trump card. No one else is worthy. Lu Wujian said in shock. What? Lu Wujian still has a trump card? Is he going to let us live? This is too exaggerated. The previous battles were already earth-shattering. Now that he has used his strongest trump card, it would be even worse. This time, Yi Chen is in danger. His trump card is not as good as his. When two people with similar strength could not decide the winner, they could only use their trump cards to decide the winner. It could be said that the trump card was every warrior's last resort, and they could not afford to lose it. This was also the reason why they would not easily expose their trump cards. Once they were exposed, there would be no more secrets left. Lu Wujian still has a trump card. Does Yi Chen have a trump card? Could it be the defensive sword art? Situ Hao looked at Yi Chen. It's not possible. Even if Yi Chen had trained the defensive sword art to the 3rd level, it would not be that powerful. His previous strength had already surpassed the 3rd level of the defensive sword art. Unless he could train to the legendary 72 simultaneous swords realm. But the time is too short. Within 2 years, it would be impossible for him to train to the 72 simultaneous swords realm. In history, that legendary swordsman who had reached this realm had spent dozens of years to do so. What could he do in 2 years? He subconsciously thought that Yi Chen's trump card was the defensive sword art. But after thinking about it, he felt that the 3rd level of the defensive sword art was not very useful. The two's battle strength was too high, and the defensive sword art was not useful at all. You should be honored that you could last until now. Next, I will use my trump card to fight against yours. With Lu Wujian's current strength, he naturally could not force Yi Chen to use the defensive sword art. However, once the opponent showed his trump card, Yi Chen would have to use it. He did not think that the opponent's trump card was not threatening at all. It might have the power to wound him badly. Yi Chen also has a trump card. Everyone was dumbfounded, and they could not say a word. No matter who won or lost, everyone was convinced by Yi Chen. The battle strength that Yi Chen had shown was definitely at the level of a sword master. It could be said that some people had doubted Yi Chen's title of sword master before. After all, it was made up by the knowledge pavilion, and it was different from seeing it with their own eyes. But now they did not doubt it at all. On the contrary, if someone doubted it, they would definitely refute it. The title of sword master in the continent belonged to Yi Chen. Phew! Dugaju let out a long breath, and his tense nerves relaxed. I am not a match for them now. There is no need to fight. Not knowing that the two still had trump cards. Although Dugaju did not think that he would win, he still had a chance. Yi Chen, do not disappoint me. Between Lu Wujian and Yi Chen, Dugaju would naturally lean towards Yi Chen. After all, Yi Chen was also a sword artist of the continent, while Lu Wujian was from the West Ocean. The purpose of this trip was to beat all of the martial geniuses of the continent and look down on all of them. Lu Wujian's expression changed, and he looked serious again. All right. I did not expect that you would be like me, still having trump cards. But once I use my secret sword, even I will not be able to control myself. By then I might kill you. Don't blame me for being cruel. Lu Wujian was not lying. He indeed could not control his secret sword completely. Most importantly, Yi Chen was too powerful. He was afraid that if he held back he might lose. Don't worry. Once I use my defensive sword spell, I might be able to kill you as well. Let's fight with everything we have. Yi Chen put away his thunder disaster sword, and there was no sword in his hands. Is it really the defensive sword spell? Situhao's eyes were wide open as he stared at Yi Chen. He would like to see how different Yi Chen's defensive sword spell was from his. The two top sword masters stood in the air, facing each other. Outside, the tornado was still roaring. One was quiet, while the other was moving. The whole world seemed to have stopped. Boom! Boom! The two rushed toward each other at the same time. That horrifying chi explosion was something that even the tornado could not cover up. Secret Sword 3 Sky Sword Chi. Defensive Sword Spell, 3 sword attacks. It was unknown if it was a coincidence, but the two super powerful killing attacks were all related to the word 3. Lu Wujian's 3 Sky Sword Chi was 3 different colored sword chi, green, blue, and red. Each of them contained a different profound. The green sword chi contained the profound of wind, the blue one contained the profound of water, and the red one contained the profound of blood. Do not look down on these 3 sword chi, as they were not only profound martial arts but also secret arts. Normally, secret arts would not contain pure profound. Once they did, their power would increase exponentially. The 3 different colored sword chi attacked toward Yi Chen, full of killing power. At the same time, the gold sword on Yi Chen's back had also taken out of its scabbard. It shook in the air and split into 2 Zhenyuan gold swords. 3 gold swords shot out toward the 3 sword chi. Pooh! Pooh! The green sword chi and the red sword chi exploded and were shattered by the Zhenyuan gold sword. The blue sword chi in the middle could not even withstand a single attack from the original gold sword. It turned into a wisp of blue smoke and disappeared without even making a sound. What? Not good. Lu Wujian's eyes popped out. The 3 sky sword chi that he had been so confident in had been destroyed by Yi Chen's 3 sword attacks. How could he not be shocked? Without any other thoughts, Lu Wujian's next thought was to focus on defense. He did not believe that his 2 layers of defense would not be able to block out the 3 sword attacks that had been weakened by a lot. Lu Wujian's 2 layers of defense were indeed extremely powerful. After breaking through the semi-extreme rank accessories dark blue layer, the Zhenyuan gold sword disappeared. However, the original gold sword's power was 3 times that of the Zhenyuan gold sword, which was way more powerful. Swoosh! The first layer of defense had been pierced through, and so had the second layer. The original gold sword turned into a beam of gold light, shooting toward Lu Wujian's neck. At the moment of life and death, Lu Wujian's neck twisted, and the gold sword brushed past it without touching him at all. But in the next second, a huge amount of blood poured out of his neck. His main artery had been cut open by the sword chi, and the blood would not stop flowing out. Yi Chen's defensive sword spell had already reached beyond the Sea of Souls realm. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.